How well do we understand the dark depths of postpartum psychosis? This question echoes in our minds as we delve into the tragic story of Lindsay Clancy, a mother charged in the heartbreaking death of her 3 young children. A year ago, the peaceful town of Duxbury, Massachusetts, was shattered by the horrific news. Today, the chilling tale is known far and wide, leaving a scar on the heart of Massachusetts and raising questions nationwide. Lindsay Clancy, a seemingly loving mother and a delivery nurse at Massachusetts General Hospital, was not officially diagnosed with postpartum depression before the incident. Yet doctors had prescribed her a cocktail of medications for a generalized anxiety disorder. In the weeks leading up to the tragedy, Clancy voluntarily admitted herself into McLean Hospital, a psychiatric facility in Belmont. She was discharged a few days later, deemed not a danger to herself or others. Her meticulous notes, kept on her phone and in journals, painted a picture of her life. They detailed her daily routine, the lives of her children, the medications she was on, and their effects. Plymouth County prosecutors later described these writings as clear and precise and articulate, arguing that Clancy was in a clear state of mind on that fateful day. However, the defense paints a different picture. They argue that Clancy was over-medicated, suffering from postpartum psychosis or depression, and that her mental health had deteriorated significantly in the days leading up to the children's deaths. The tragic demise of 5-year-old Cora, 3-year-old Dawson, and 8-month-old Callan Clancy on January 24th has left us grappling with a tragic reality. The authorities argue that Clancy was lucid on the day of the killings, having sent her husband on errands before committing the unthinkable. This case has left a scar on the heart of Massachusetts and raised questions nationwide. How well do we understand the dark depths of postpartum psychosis? How equipped are we to recognize and address it? And most importantly, how can we prevent such tragedies in the future? A year has passed since that fateful day. Let's revisit the events leading up to it. In the months leading to the tragic deaths of the Clancy children, Lindsay Clancy, their mother, was grappling with an unseen battle. Not officially diagnosed with postpartum depression, Lindsay was prescribed a cocktail of medications for a generalized anxiety disorder, a disorder that seemed to tighten its grip on her, leading her to voluntarily check into McLean Hospital, a psychiatric facility in Belmont, on New Year's Day of 2023. After spending a few days under careful observation, Lindsay was discharged on January 5th, the hospital declaring her not a danger to herself or others. But the story doesn't end there. Lindsay had been keeping meticulous notes on her phone and in journals. She documented her days, her children's lives, the medications she took, and their effects. These notes, a window into her world, were described by a Plymouth County prosecutor as clear and precise and articulate. They argued these writings pointed to a clear state of mind. Yet just a few weeks later, on January 24th, the unthinkable happened. Lindsay was charged with the killing of her 3 children, 5-year-old Cora, 3-year-old Dawson, and 8-month-old Callan. The prosecution argued that Lindsay, in a lucid state, sent her husband on errands and then strangled her children with exercise bands, a chilling detail that contrasts starkly with the image of a mother who loved her children. But her defense attorney, Kevin Reddington, presented a different perspective. He contended that Lindsay was over-medicated and that she suffered from postpartum psychosis or postpartum depression. Her mental health, he argued, had taken a severe hit in the days leading up to her children's deaths. The prosecutor argued that her writings were articulate, suggesting a clear state of mind. But was it really that simple? The truth, like Lindsay's journey, is complex and fraught with questions. And as we move forward, we must ask ourselves, how well do we truly understand postpartum psychosis, and how can we better support those who are silently suffering? In the courtroom, a battle of perspectives ensued. On one side, we have the prosecution, laser-focused on the meticulous notes Lindsay Clancy kept, her daily accounts, the children's lives, the medications she took, and their effects. These writings, described as clear, precise, and articulate, painted a picture of a woman in a clear state of mind. With this, authorities charged Clancy, asserting that she was lucid on the day of the killings. They alleged that she crafted a plan, sending her husband on errands, and then strangled her children with exercise bands. On the other side of the courtroom, defense attorney Kevin Reddington presented a starkly different narrative. He contended that Clancy was over-medicated, that she was a victim of postpartum psychosis or depression. Reddington painted a picture of a woman whose mental health deteriorated rapidly in the days leading up to the tragic event. He questioned the motive behind the act, stating, She obviously had no reason to kill those 3 beautiful children. Why? And when you ask yourself why, you consider all these factors, it's readily apparent that this woman was a troubled soul. The courtroom conundrum revolved around a key question. Was Lindsay Clancy a lucid killer, meticulously planning and executing the murder of her 3 children? Or was she a victim of an overlooked, misunderstood mental illness? Was she a woman in control? Or was she a woman spiraling out of control, over-medicated, and under-supported in her time of need? The question was not just about Lindsay Clancy. It was about understanding the nuances of postpartum depression and psychosis. It was about acknowledging the need for better mental health support for new mothers. It was about addressing the stigmas associated with mental illness, especially in the context of motherhood. The courtroom was not just a stage for a legal battle. It was a mirror reflecting the inadequacies of our understanding and support systems for mental health. It brought to light the need for a more compassionate, informed approach to dealing with postpartum issues. The question remains, was Lindsay a lucid killer or a victim of an overlooked mental illness? The tragic loss triggered a ripple effect, prompting legislative changes. In the aftermath of the Clancy children's untimely demise, lawmakers were quick to act. Proposals were filed, aiming to write into law provisions for mothers who commit violent crimes within a year of birth. The goal? To ensure these mothers are screened for postpartum depression and psychosis. This tragic incident has forced us to reevaluate our understanding of postpartum mental health conditions. It's raised questions about how well these illnesses are understood, not just in Massachusetts but across the nation. It's shown a light on the urgent need for better education, better diagnostics, and better support for those struggling with postpartum disorders. Meanwhile, Lindsay Clancy's case continues its slow march through the legal system. Currently, she remains committed at Tewksbury Hospital. She's described as permanently paralyzed, the result of a suicide attempt that saw her leap from the 2nd story of her Duxbury home. In February of 2023, Lindsay was arraigned from a Boston area hospital bed. She was confined to her bed, wearing a neck brace and a medical mask. Her defense attorney painted a picture of a woman in dire medical condition, under constant monitoring after her suicide attempt. But the question that looms large is how a mother, who by all accounts loved her children and worked as a delivery nurse at Massachusetts General Hospital, could have committed the crimes as alleged by authorities. Friends wrote letters of support to Plymouth District Court, describing Lindsay as compassionate, caring, and a loving mother. The heartbreaking narrative of Lindsay Clancy, a woman who seemingly had everything to live for, serves as a stark reminder of the silent, hidden struggle many new mothers face. The stigma associated with postpartum mental health conditions remains a significant barrier to diagnosis and treatment. While the legal battles continue, Lindsay remains a symbol of a deeply misunderstood condition. Her story underscores the urgency to better understand postpartum disorders, to break the stigma, and ultimately, to prevent such tragedies from happening again. Behind the headlines and court proceedings, who was Lindsay Clancy? Before the tragic incident that shook Duxbury and the nation, Lindsay Clancy led a life that was seemingly ordinary. She was a delivery nurse at the Massachusetts General Hospital, a job that not only required technical skills but also a great deal of compassion and empathy. Day in and day out, Lindsay was there at the front line of life itself, assisting in the miracle of birth, offering comfort and care to new mothers. This was a woman who dedicated her life to bringing joy to others. But Lindsay was not just a nurse. She was also a mother, a friend, a wife. The Lindsay Clancy that friends and family knew was a far cry from the woman portrayed in the courtrooms and newspapers. Letters of support sent to Plymouth District Court painted a picture of a woman who was compassionate, caring, and deeply loved her children. One of these letters was from Michelle DeCanto, a friend who had known Lindsay for 26 long years since they were 6. She wrote, "I know in my heart and soul that Lindsay loved her children." This sentiment was echoed by others who knew Lindsay personally. They saw her as a woman who loved her children and would do anything for them. But somewhere along the line, something went terribly wrong. The Lindsay they knew seemed to disappear, replaced by a woman struggling with an illness that many still do not fully understand. This struggle, however, does not erase the woman Lindsay was before. It simply adds another layer to her story, a layer that is painful, tragic, and incredibly complex. In the end, Lindsay Clancy was more than just a headline or a court case. She was a loving mother, a caring nurse, a friend. Her story is a stark reminder of the devastating effects of postpartum psychosis, a condition that remains shrouded in misunderstanding and stigma. A loving mother and a caring nurse, Lindsay's story challenges our understanding of postpartum psychosis. Stigma and lack of understanding often shroud postpartum issues. Let's delve into the dark corners of the room that society often prefers to ignore, the unlit spaces where mental illness and postpartum issues reside. Mental health disorders, particularly those related to childbirth, are frequently stigmatized and misunderstood. This leaves those suffering in the shadows, often silenced by the weight of the misconceptions and prejudices surrounding their conditions. In the face of such stigma, it's crucial to understand that mental illnesses, including postpartum depression and psychosis, are not character flaws or weaknesses. They are medical conditions that can be diagnosed and treated. Yet, the fear of judgment and misunderstanding often discourages those affected from seeking the help they need. Take Lindsay Clancy's case as an example. A mother who, by all accounts, loved her children dearly, was trapped in a battle with an illness that warped her reality. Yet her condition was overlooked, underestimated, and misunderstood. She was viewed as a danger rather than someone in dire need of help. Postpartum depression and psychosis, like many mental health issues, are often dismissed as mere baby blues. This lack of awareness and understanding can lead to devastating consequences, as we've seen. It's not just a storm in a mother's mind, but a tempest that can engulf entire families. But it doesn't have to be this way. We can change the narrative. We can illuminate the dark corners and dispel the stigma clouding postpartum issues. By raising awareness, promoting understanding, and advocating for mental health support, we can ensure that no mother feels alone in her struggle. We can push for better screening procedures, more comprehensive mental health education, and increased support for mothers during and after pregnancy. We can encourage open discussions, dispel harmful stereotypes, and foster an environment where seeking help is not seen as a sign of weakness, but as an act of strength. As we grapple with the harsh realities of postpartum psychosis, it's time we break down these barriers of stigma and misunderstanding. We owe it to Lindsay Clancy, her children, and all the mothers out there grappling with postpartum issues, because understanding is the first step towards healing. What lessons can we learn from this heart-wrenching story? As we delve into the aftermath of Lindsay Clancy's tragedy, we can't help but recognize the pivotal lessons it presents. The story of Lindsay Clancy is a stark reminder of the devastating effects of postpartum depression and psychosis, conditions that are often misunderstood and inadequately addressed. Firstly, we've seen the importance of early diagnosis and proper treatment. Despite Lindsay's struggle with a generalized anxiety disorder and her voluntary admittance to a psychiatric facility, her condition was not accurately diagnosed or treated. This failure in the healthcare system has shown us that there's a dire need for better understanding and handling of postpartum disorders. Secondly, the case highlights the urgent need for societal change in the perception of mental health, particularly in mothers. Stigmas associated with mental illness can prevent individuals from seeking help or even acknowledging that they need it. It's high time we break these barriers and create an environment where mental health is discussed openly, without judgment or fear. Moreover, Lindsay's meticulous notes, described as clear and precise and articulate, underscore the need for healthcare providers to listen closely to their patients. Often, those grappling with mental health issues are the first to recognize the changes in their behavior and mindset. Their insights, as shown in Lindsay's case, can be instrumental in understanding their condition and providing the right treatment. Lastly, the swift legislative response following the tragedy shows us the power of policy change. The proposed law to screen mothers who commit violent crimes within 1 year of birth for postpartum depression and psychosis is a step in the right direction. It's a testament to the potential for positive change that can stem from heart-rending incidents like this one. Remember Lindsay Clancy and her children, not as a gruesome headline, but as a call to action for better mental health care for all mothers. Let their story be a catalyst for change, a beacon that guides us towards a future where mothers are supported, understood, and cared for in their most vulnerable moments.